Good morning. Happy day 7. We're rolling along here. I got to thank everybody. We just had a great week of sessions. Our friend Patty ran our last beginners meditation instruction for the month last night. We held one every night, just about every night. Thursday we did an experienced meditators, but I held one every night this week, and we had great turnout. Met a lot of friends. A lot of people came twice. It was very gratifying to start seeing some familiar faces. Really wonderful. We're going to start this off with just our standard 3 minutes of meditation, but we're going to sort of recap the week and talk a little bit about what's coming next. So we'll get into all that. But why don't we go ahead and meditate together for 3 minutes, and then we'll get into this here. So I'm going to try to get you completely and totally up to speed. If this is the very first video that you're watching this week, I want to touch on everything we covered. First, we've got a very simple practice that we do here. There's a million ways to meditate, and we encourage you to find what works best for you. We have some suggestions about good ways to get started. But we recommend this particular practice because we believe it's a foundational practice that will serve you well in any of your meditation. It's called Zazen. It's one of Zen's formational types of meditation. It's a breath awareness and a concentration practice, right? All we're doing is paying very close attention to the experience of our breath. So to practice Zazen, if you're sitting in a chair, you put your feet flat on the ground. You sit in a nice firm chair. You kind of pull yourself a little off the back. We don't want to compress our lungs. Your legs at a 90-degree angle. We're going to just tuck our hips a little forward. If you need a little support, you can put a small pillow at the small of your back. That's just going to help us get a nice, healthy spine. A little bit of lower lumbar support means our spine will be nice and balanced. We can sit still for as long as we like without being uncomfortable if we're really mindful about our posture. Our chest is going to be nice, expansive. We're going to let our shoulders come down off of our ears. We're going to follow this good spine all the way to the top of our head. And part of the way we do that is just tuck in our chin ever so slightly, gazing at the floor, a foot or two in front of us. You can meditate with your eyes open or closed. I personally like to sort of leave my eyes like 2/3 of the way closed, just softly gazing on the floor, so I let a little bit of light in so I don't fall asleep. We breathe in and out through our nose for this practice. And we pay very close attention to the experience of the breath. You can notice it at the tip of your nose, the back of your throat, the expansion of your chest. If you are sitting well, nice and relaxed, your diaphragm feels like you can feel the expansion of your breath almost all the way down into your lower abdomen. I like to place my attention there. Sort of feels very grounding, centering. And what we do with our mind when we're practicing Zazen is we just very simply count breaths. We breathe in, we note 1. We breathe out, we note 2. In 3, out 4. We get to the count of 10, and we start over again. The challenging part is what we do with our mind here. And this is why it's a simple practice, but it's not easy. We recommend thinking about this as the 4 R's. We're going to recognize thinking. We're going to release those thoughts by returning fully and completely to the experience of breath. And the most important of the 4 R's is we're going to repeat this over and over, right? So recognize thinking, release thinking by returning to the experience of the breath, and repeat this again and again. Some of us like to keep counting when we get distracted. Some of us like to go back to 1. Again, there's no wrong way to do this, only the way that works for you. I think it's very important to have the expectation that your mind is not going to stop thinking at any point, right? In the same way that eyes see and ears hear, brains think. It's a good thing. If you didn't have these thoughts to work with, it would be like going to the gym and working out without weights, right? It's the resistance that gives us the kind of emotional awareness and mental strength, allow us to place our attention and focus where we want it to be, fully and completely without distraction. Right? So that's what we're working on with this particular type of meditation. And it's a wonderful foundational practice because whatever kind of meditation you explore after this will benefit from the fact that you've developed this ability to place your attention and concentration where you'd like it to be. So our first lesson on week 1, day 1 of this week was about tiny habits. We believe very strongly that if you're new to meditation, that you should stick to 3 and max 5 minutes of daily meditation, and really strive for consistency before anything else. It takes about 66 days to form a new habit. And you really, if you want the full benefits of this practice, you're looking for a daily practice that's going to sustain you through months and years, not just get you through a couple of days. So start small. This is really important. Our motivation will wane after a while, so we don't want to have a goal of 20 or 30 minutes that wouldn't be attainable once we're feeling a little less motivated to stick with the practice. Second, we talked on day 2 about community, right? How we come together and support each other in practice and why that's important. You know, we can get partners, we can join groups in our area. You can look up at meetup.com, or you can go to your local yoga studio and ask around. There are Insight and Zen centers within driving distance of a lot of our major metropolitan areas and suburbs now. Sorry, my camera's going a little crazy here. We've got bright morning light here. It doesn't know what to do with itself. I really am convinced that this is a challenging practice, and it's nearly impossible to do by ourselves. And most importantly about community is it's joyful, right? We get more out of the experience when we get to practice and learn about ourselves and others through joining a community. Of course, we also have, you know, the New Leaf community. We have some local chapters throughout the country, but we're really primarily focused about developing and supporting relationships online. So we do, you know, discussion groups on Facebook, and we email with each other, and we have conference camera and phone conference meetings all the time. So you, of course, can find some community here too. On day 3, we talked about linking habits. Right? Habits are incredibly powerful, and one of the ways we can take advantage of existing habits is trying to link our new habit to that existing habit. Day 4, we talked about writing, and this is a helpful way to think about linking your new meditation to an existing habit. We learned that there's great scientific research that proves if we very simply write a commitment down, we're more likely to be able to follow up on that. So for example, I like to shower, brush my teeth, and apparently I've been told it's important to add to this that I then go and get dressed, and then I sit and meditate. So for me, if I was working on installing this new habit, I would write, tomorrow morning I will wake up, shower, brush my teeth, put on my clothes, and immediately sit down to meditate for a few minutes. It's a great way to, help ourselves link a new habit to an existing habit. So it's day 3 and 4. We also learned in day 4 about writing. There's a great way to clear our mind for a few minutes if we are feeling particularly anxious or worried about something or just a little all over the place. And if we only have a few minutes to sit in meditation and we really want to help ourselves try to stay connected to the breath as much as possible, we could free journal for 2 or 3 minutes as a way of kind of helping us settle into the practice. Very valuable. Day 5, we started talking a little bit about negative self-talk and acceptance. One of the things that I heard as I was talking with people who were involved in this challenge this week is that many of us are hard on ourselves, right? We have this beautiful aspiration to add a meditation practice into our life. And then when we fall a little short of it, instead of celebrating the successes and encouraging ourselves and being kind and compassionate and recognizing that this is really challenging and most of us struggle making this a habit, we're really negative and sort of beat ourselves up. So we talk a little bit about how that kind of negative thinking can really slow our practice down and maybe inhibit our ability to get reconnected. We start to see some of the emotional growth of how practice is more than just the time in the cushion. It's even how we relate to that time in the cushion. And I think this is really, the powerful lesson out of day 5 for me is the example of, how would you talk to a small child? How would you talk to a friend or family member if they fell a little short? And then examine that in comparison to how we talk to ourselves. Yesterday, we on Thursday night had a great session. We talked all about challenges and pitfalls and what we're struggling with if we're experienced meditators. And a few really interesting themes came out of that. I wrote them down here. I talked about 5 of them in yesterday's video, the recap. Aversion. When we're having a rough time in life, sometimes we start avoiding the meditation cushion because we know that there's worry and anxiety waiting for us when we get there. And so our recommendation there is to shorten the period of time that we're meditating, because there's no way around these things, there's only through it, right? So if we're gonna practice during challenging times and we're feeling like we're avoiding it, maybe instead of sitting for 10 or 20 minutes, maybe we sit for 5 minutes, right? We could also look at guided meditation or walking meditation or trying something like Tai Chi or yoga as an alternative to try to get some of that peaceful, calming centering into our life, but without pushing ourselves too hard, trying to find that balance, where we need to start finding a little bit of healing, but keep working on stuff in a way that's not harmful. We talked about boredom. It's something, if you've been meditating for years, we can start to feel like we hit plateaus. We stop seeing new growth and realizations, and we maybe don't even realize how much we feel the physical benefits of meditation anymore. And we talked about some strategies, exploring new forms of meditation, and really investing in refining the practice, getting into the subtlety as ways of looking at boredom. This idea that we can inquire and probe boredom itself as the focus of our meditation, as a way of deepening our understanding and getting some self-awareness as a way of combating that. Life is too good. Our new friend Jan is a psych nurse, And she told us a great story. She talked about one of the things she struggles with is her life starts going so well. She starts feeling like she doesn't need meditation. And she talked about the patients who come in for mental health assistance, and they get on medication and they start feeling better, and they feel like they don't need their meds anymore, and they go off their meds, and sure enough, they still need it, and then they come right back. And I think that's absolutely true for me with my meditation practice. Sometimes life is going too well, and I fall out of the habit. We talked about a lack of structure. I basically took 2016 off. I did a lot of traveling. I did a little freelance work. I had more time in 2016 than I have in any of the last 9 years that I've been meditating. And I meditated less this last year than I had in any previous year, right? So why is that, right? There's, again, we talked about linking habits to existing habits, and a lack of structure gives you a few sort of fixed points. So we talked about, building structure through community and things like that. And the last, sort of big theme that came out of that conversation was this idea of major life changes. Major life changes are great opportunities for installing new habits, right? Because they've weakened existing habits. But that central theme is also important if there are some habits we want to preserve. So if we move and we are no longer near our favorite meditation community, and our commute time to work has changed, the kids go to school at a different time, suddenly your morning meditation practice has fallen through the cracks. And recognizing this is part of the reality, it's fine. And we employ all the techniques that we talked about this week, right? We go back to basics because there's really only the basics. We start tiny and we stay tiny, and we focus on creating consistency before we work our way into sitting for longer periods of time. We're accepting and supportive and compassionate to ourselves, right? And we look to community for support. And so using these techniques as if we're brand new to the practice when we've fallen off the wagon, it's the same tools. So for the week looking forward, just want to, we're going to talk about bringing this practice off the cushion. Mindfulness in action, meditation in action, meditation in motion. There's a lot of ways that we kind of say this, meaning all the same thing. I think the reason Zazen is such a valuable practice for me is what I'm learning to do with my mind is place my attention wherever I want it to be, and to stay there, right? And I don't have to use the breath as an anchor when I'm doing that. I can use anything. So we'll start talking about things like washing the dishes, brushing our teeth, these different sort of actions that require a lot of cognitive thought that we can turn like into little moments of meditation. I think this is deeply valuable for people who are incredibly busy and have schedules that are all over the place. Some of our friends who are primary caregivers to somebody who's ill find that their entire life is encompassed by this other person's well-being, and they can't run off somewhere and go and meditate for a while. So how do we find ways to be present and bring a little bit of that centering into our day-to-day life? And I think mindfulness in action is a great way to do that. So we'll explore that from a couple different ways this upcoming week. We're going to have, it sounds like, groups on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We always have our book club on Tuesday nights. That's not part of the, it is part of the challenge, but that started long before the challenge and will continue. That's at 9 p.m. Eastern. We get together at the Zoom channel there. You can check out newleafmeditation.org/events to figure out how to connect there. It sounds like we're going to do something kind of casual. We're playing around with some names like Water Cooler Wednesday. So just an idea in there about finding some ways to connect and support each other that maybe aren't as focused as a themed discussion. And then our friend Adam is likely going to lead a beginner's instruction on Thursday. And if it's not a beginner's instruction, we'll do some kind of themed meditation discussion. But we'll refine that and we'll announce what that program is going to look like in the next couple of days. So I hope you have a great weekend. I hope this helped you start off on the right foot. I really, I loved all the messages I got in these last 7 days. And, typically what we see is people start to disappear, right? They showed up and they were good for the first couple of days, and it's a New Year's resolution. Sort of life gets busy again, and that takes over. And yeah, I really encourage you to try to just extend this motivation a little bit farther into the new year, right? Keep reading the emails, check out the videos, come and talk with us in the discussion group, send me an email, show up for one of our groups next week. Right? We don't have to do as much as we did this first week, but it's really a great benefit if we can keep doing a little, making this practice a substantive part of our new year. So, thank you. Have a great weekend, guys. Bye.